Welcome, Living with Fontana. Today's lesson, we're going to go ahead and start in the book of Luke. The book of Luke is located in the New Testament. We're going to be going over chapters 23. The title of today's lesson is Jesus is Crucified. Because through what Jesus Christ did for us, we're saved. Because of what he did on the cross, we're able to go to heaven one day. Now get ready. We're going to go ahead and start in verse 26. So go ahead and find verse 26 in your Bibles. And it reads, "Now as they led him away, they laid hold of a certain man, Simon, a Syrian, who was coming from the country, and on him they laid the cross that he might bear it after Jesus." Now imagine this. As Simon was asked to carry the cross for Jesus because Jesus wasn't able to carry it anymore. Remember, he was carrying his cross so he can be crucified. Simon gets pulled. He starts to carry the cross for Jesus. Imagine how he felt. Maybe he felt a little embarrassed because in those days, the only people that would carry a cross were criminals. Simon wasn't a criminal. He was going into Jerusalem so he can celebrate the Passover feast. But you know what we can learn from this? Just like Simon took the cross and he carried it for Jesus, we shouldn't be ashamed of the things of the Lord. Just like Simon, he wasn't ashamed. He carried the cross for Jesus. He carried that burden. We should be able to be bold and strong in the things of God. We should never be embarrassed to be a Christian. We should never be embarrassed to pray and to worship God openly, wherever we're at. Now, grab your worksheets. We're going to go through question number 1. Question number 1 is to circle the correct word. Once you find question number 1, we're going to go ahead and read it together. And it says, "Now as they led him away, they laid hold of a certain man, Saul or Simon, a Syrian, who was coming from the country, and on him they laid the cross that he might bear it after Jesus." Now, is the answer Saul or Simon? What was his name? Now, if you forgot his name, we can go back to our Bibles, look at verse 26 and find out. If you circle Simon, you got the answer right. His name was Simon. Now, find verse 27. We're going to go ahead and start in verse 27 again. Once you're there, just go ahead and read it together. "And a great multitude of people followed him, and a woman who also mourned and lamented him. But Jesus, turning to them, said, 'Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. For indeed the days are coming in which they will say, Blessed are the barren, wombs that never bore, and breasts which never nurse. Then they will begin to say to the mountains, Fall on us, and to the hills, cover us. For if they do these things in the green wood, what will be done in the dry?'" Let's continue with verse 32. Once you find it there, let's read it together. "There were also 2 other criminals led with him to be put to death. And when they had come to the place called Calvary, there they crucified him and the criminals, one on the right hand and the other on the left hand. Then Jesus said, 'Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they do.' And they divided his garments and cast lots. And the people stood looking on, but even the rulers with them spurned, saying, 'He saved others, let him save himself, if he is the Christ, the chosen of God.' And the people stood looking on, but even the rulers with them spurned, saying, 'He saved others, let him save himself, if he is the Christ, the chosen of God.'" Now grab your worksheets. We're going to go through questions number 2, and it's a true or false question. Once you find it, we're going to read it together. "There were also 8 other criminals led with him to be put to death." Now, if you don't remember, if that's what it said, go back to the Bible and look at verse 32. And if you circle false, you're right. It wasn't 8, it was 2 other criminals. Let's go ahead and answer question number 3. And once you find it, we're going to read it together. And it says, "And when they had come to a place called Calvary, There they crucified him and the criminals, one on the right hand and the other on the left. Now, if you circle true, you got the answer right. Question number 4 is fill in the blank. Let's read it together. Then Jesus said, Father, them, for they do not know what they do. So what word are we missing there? Now, let's go back to our Bibles and look at verse 34. And it says, then Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they do. See, the answer is forgive. Question number 5 is a true or false question. Let's find it in your worksheets and let's read it together. And it says, and they divided his garments and cast lots. Now, is that true or false? Let's look at our Bibles and look up at verse 34. And the answer is true. Good job. Now, parents, make sure you guys finish up the worksheets at home, and we'll see you guys next time. God bless you guys.